Good evening, guys. I think so. We are live now. Can you just quickly confirm if I'm live and if I'm audible to you and if my screen is clearly visible to you or not? I would need that confirmation from your side so that we can move forward. Yeah, good evening, Komal. Hello, MSPTE. Hello, it's Arichan. Hello, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Just confirm if everything is fine from my side and then we can begin forward, okay? Uh, yeah, hello, Manohar. Manoranjan. Okay. So Manoranjan for yeah, good evening everyone. Good evening guys. Good evening and good evening to okay, yeah. Yeah guys. Okay, I think so I have to check it myself. Everything is fine. Okay, I good evening everyone. Welcome to this 3 day of API bootcamp where we will be discussing about APIs, where we will be creating APIs and yeah, things about APIs will be discussed and completed. So let me tell you what we are exactly going to do on the 3 days of bootcamp. So first day is going to be total theoretical, where we are going to discuss some of the concepts of APIs before getting into that. And from day two and day three, we will be doing the practical part. Okay, so that's how things are planned. And obviously, the first day will be theoretical, so you have to cope up with some of the theories on the first day. When we move forward to the second day, we will be starting with our practical part where we will be creating APIs using Node.js. Okay. So first and foremost thing, if you are in coding and all, you should have some basic knowledge of like Node.js and JavaScript for this case because we are going to create all of the APIs that we will be looking into by using Node.js only. Okay. So that's one thing. Audio not clear. Guys, is it problem with everyone? Is my audio not clear for everyone? So, Pradipto, guys, can you just confirm if if there is problem with my audio for everyone? Okay, I would need a confirmation, guys, to move forward. Okay, if everything is great, too much noise. I'm sitting in a very like silent background. I don't know from where am I getting those noise. Okay, just give me a moment. Okay, just a minute. Everything is fine. Okay, just wait a minute. Let me check what's the issue, and then we will move forward. Okay. I think so. My headphone was disconnected. For that reason, there would be some noise coming on. Okay, fine, guys. I think so. The issue would be okay. Okay, now what's the status now? Is it okay now? Okay, I think so. It could be better now because there was some problem with my headphone and my audio. My microphone was connected with my headphone. So that's all the problem. Okay, fine. Great. So let me go back again and tell you what I told you exactly was. So the first day is totally going to be theoretical. It will not be a long lecture for now. From the second and third day, we will be entering into the practical part where we will be working with APIs. And remember, I will try to keep things more basic. Okay. I will not go much deeper or else much complex because I have to think of the new audience and the people who do not have much knowledge of this. So we'll keep things as basic possible for you also. And next thing, so you would be knowing that we will be sharing attendance with you, and I have fixed timing for attendance. Attendance will be shared after 7:30 for today's session. From tomorrow's session, I will tell you when am I exactly going to share the attendance. So I want everyone to actually not spam into my chat. Okay. So you should not actually spam into my chat telling me that share attendance and other things. And next thing, whatever doubt you have, just write it out in the chat. If I miss out, just add it again after a minute. Okay. You should have a gap between each chat, each doubt that you send of a 1 minute. So I will look into that. No need to spam about the doubt too. If the doubt is not worth looking into, then I'm going to ignore that. Okay. So since some of the lectures that I have taken that have been taking, I am getting some unwanted doubts. So please restrain from sending that types of doubts. If you have any genuine doubt, feel free to add, but do not spam. Okay, that's the only thing that I need from your side. Other than just focus up over here. And one more thing, just I want to tell, we are sitting over here to study something. We are not here to exchange contacts with each other. So I would welcome you if you are not here to share your Snapchat ID or Instagram ID. Okay. In some of the lectures, I got that problem, and that totally disrupts the flow of the lecture. So please restrain from doing that. Now let's get into this. What is API? Why are we discussing this APIs and API thing? Whatever we are talking about. Okay. So since we got into infrastructure where we separated front end and back end altogether. We started writing both of things separately. We started having a connection or a bridge for those front end and back end. Okay. What I'm trying to discuss right here is, let's suppose this is one part where I am writing my front end code, and basically whatever framework you'd be using, I do not mind. And then I have a backend part too. Okay, now things are separate for me. I do not have both of things together. I have front end separate deployed somewhere else. I have backend separate deployed somewhere else. Okay, okay. So all these things will, yeah, everything will work on Mac. Okay, do not worry. Mac has everything possible that you need to run. So we have front end, we have back end, both separate. Now, how will we bridge them together, or else how will we connect them together? So the only way possible to do so is APIs. Okay, so APIs stand for Application Program Interface. Let's write it full form. Its full form. So we call it as Application Program Interface. Okay, that's what API actually stands for. Just wait a minute. Let me zoom in so that you can see much better. Okay, so what application program interface is? Application program interface is a bridge between front end and a back end part. That's what we know an API as. Okay, so just a small bridge between front end and a back end part. Just remember, the most simplest definition that I can get for you is this. So understand a API as a connection between front end and back end. Okay, so the next question would be, what does API do as a connection? Okay, what exactly does API transfers, or what exact functionality does the API has in between backend and frontend? So whenever you are designing an application, there would be transfer of data. Okay, transfer of data. Now this data could be anything possible that you can think of. Okay, this data can be text, this data can be tokens, this data can be anything possible that you can think of. So now how does this data transfer takes place between front end and back end part? So API is the only answer for that. Okay, so if I give a formal definition of API, so I will call it as, API is a bridge between front end and back end. Brain changed it just now. I gave a disclaimer, do not spam anything about attendance. So it is a bridge between two systems. Okay. So what two systems am I talking about? I am talking about front end and back end. Okay. Front end and back end part. Okay. So a bridge between two systems. Now these two systems are my front end and back end. So what does it allows? It allows us to communicate. Okay. Spelling of allow. So allows us to communicate. Now, communication in the form of data. Okay. So whatever communication happens in between these two parts is in the form of data. Okay. If you want to take an example, let's take an example where I have designed a hotel application. Okay. Let's suppose I have designed a hotel application. So this hotel application, what it does, it performs hotel bookings. Okay. So that is one part, or one functionality that I'm taking into account. So hotel bookings. So now in hotel bookings, what function can API do? Okay, if I think about in hotel booking scenario, what function can API do? So it will transfer data. What data should it transfer? It should transfer data about. So data transfer of available rooms. Okay, available rooms and bookings. Okay, you can think of it. Data transfer of available rooms and bookings. So in hotel booking, obviously there would be only one thing that we would need to transfer is particularly the current status of number of rooms booked, number of rooms vacated, and all things. Okay. So now you have front end part that contains UI, that contains all buttons and everything, and then you have a backend part. Okay. Now backend will be having database. Okay, so backend will be having a database. Okay, let's kind of define an architecture for this case. That would be much better. So let's assume this as my front end UI, and then I have a backend along with my database in it. Okay, so then I will have my backend UI, sorry, not backend UI, but backend server. So we will be calling my backend as a server along with what? Along with my database together. So now database will contain information about what? Database will contain information about rooms, their price ranges, their booking status, and their vacating status, everything all together. So the data that has been held by database will get transferred from backend to front end using what? Using the API. Okay. So this is one of the main use case scenario of this application. Okay. So everywhere, wherever you can think of, we will be using this APIs, whatever application you think. Let's suppose if I take an example of any e-commerce, or else let's take example of Flipkart. On a lower level, if I am talking about a product availability on our platform, so how does the front end actually knows if a particular product is available or not? So it will just check up with the backend. In the backend, you will be going to your database. You will check up in the inventory if that product is available or not. Using API, you will be sending back the response. That's the work that API does. Okay. Now, let's get into one example. Okay, so these were some use case scenarios that we had. If you do not understand, no problem. We can look into it more. Now, let's understand by taking another example. Okay, so why am I taking these many examples? For you to understand it clearly. Let's take a restaurant. Okay, so I'm taking a restaurant example where you went and gave an order. Okay, so you are going to a restaurant, you are giving an order for particular dish or particular whatever thing you can think of. So now you will order something. Okay. Now, how exactly are you going to order something? You will not directly get inside a kitchen, and you will not directly tell the chef that, yeah, listen to me. You will be making this dish for me. I need something. I need this dish. That's not how things work. Okay. So how will this thing work in this case scenario? So you will have waiters. Okay. You will have waiters. You will have servers who are actually going to do this part for you. Okay. So we will have waiter. What will waiter do? It will take up your request. Okay, it will take up your request and pass it to backend. So in this case, the backend is my kitchen. Okay, and pass it to kitchen. That's what I can think of in lower case scenario. Okay, so you will be requesting the waiter that I want these all items on my table, and those requests will be taken by the waiter. It will pass to the kitchen, and it is something similar how your APIs work. Okay. So in case of APIs, waiter will be replaced with APIs. Okay. So in this case scenario, instead of waiter, I will have APIs. Now, APIs, what will APIs do? APIs will take a request that your front end makes. Okay. Front end makes, and it passes the request back to backend. Okay. Now, things are not yet done. Remember, things are not yet done. Now, once you have made a request, after some time, you will be getting a response from the waiter. Okay, the waiter will bring those requested items on your table. That is response. So the first part of API is always request. Okay, let me write it up on the top. So APIs work in a request response manner. So you first make a request, and according to the request that you make, you are served with a response. Okay, so the second part of it is response. Okay. Now, in case of waiter scenario, let's see what does waiter do if you make a certain request. So now in this case, if we have a waiter, so he will bring those requested items. Okay, requested items to your table. Now here we have a given constraint, a small constraint that we can think of. What particular constraint do we have in this case? So the constraint that we have is the item should be available in your database, or else in this case scenario of restaurant, the item should be available in the kitchen. Okay, so given the item is available in the kitchen. Okay, 1 minute, available in the kitchen. Okay, that's a particular constraint that we have. So whatever request or whatever resource request you make, okay, remember that that will be fulfilled only if that item is available in the backend. Let's suppose I make a request for a particular item from the backend that's not available. I will be getting a 404, that is item not available response. Okay, so that's the one thing. So in case of API, what response am I going to get? So APIs will always give you a response. If item is available, you will be served with the item. If item is not available, you will get an error code. Okay, so you will get a response with the item that you have requested, or else in this case we can call it as a resource that you have requested. Okay, again, if the resource is not available, you are going to get a response of 404 response. We will discuss about these HTTPS codes. Just wait a minute. 404 response if item is not available. Okay, that's a one thing to remember. So I have a given constraint. If item is available, you are going to get everything that you have asked for. If item is not there, you will not be getting it. Okay. Okay, so this is how things work. So from this, what you should conclude is APIs work on a request response model. Okay, if there is no request, there will not be any response. Okay, let's again go back to this architecture that I made in the beginning. So I have a front end and then I have a backend. Okay, now, how will backend respond? Backend will respond only if a request is received. Okay, if in given scenario, if there is a particular resource and we do not get any request for that resource, we are not going to send that resource to the front end. Okay, so we have a request. Okay, so this is one part. Request flows from front end to backend. I will write that also. Request from front end to backend. That's one constraint that you have. So request will be flowing from front end part to the backend part. And where will response come from? So response is going to come from backend to front end. Okay. So we need another line to showcase our response. Okay. So after request, we will have our response from backend to front end. Remember that. So request will be from front end to back end, response will be from back end to front end. That's how our flow is going to be. Remember, I am repeating this again. If there is no request, there will not be any response given. Only if you have a particular resource request, only then you will be getting a particular response. So I hope so you would have understood what API is exactly. And let's move to the next topic that we have. Okay. So let's understand what all type of request that we make in our APIs. Okay, so I will call it as types of request, types of major request that I have. So the first type of request that I have is get request. Okay, so let's understand what get request means. So suppose you have a particular resource in our backend. Okay, let's suppose I am making a particular architecture also along with this. Let's make something out of it. Okay, so this is database. Let's suppose I have a database and now I will be doing whatever task I need to do in databases. Okay, so the first case scenario is my get request. So as the name suggests, get request means you want to take something from the backend. Okay, it means you you want to actually fetch something out from the backend. So get request is that. So you will retrieve data from backend. That is your get request. So retrieving a particular data from the backend is what my get request is. Okay, retrieving or is fetching, whatever you want to call it as. That is your get request. Now again, get let's get back to this response and request thing. How does these things work in get request? So suppose I have a get request, I will be making a request for that case. Okay, so I will be making a get request for a resource. Okay, that's the first task that I need to do, because without request there is no response. So once a request is made, database or else backend searches for the item or else searches for the resource that you have requested. After the search, if item is available, remember I have a condition. Okay, if item is available, then what happens? If item is available, you send a item. Okay, you return the resource item. Now, what if the item is not available? In that case, we will be executing the else statement. You will get 404 response. Okay, 404 response. Okay, so kind of a small pseudocode that you want to understand. So once a get request is made, if item is available, you get a resource item in return. If item is not available, you get a 404 response. That is one thing. Now after get, I have another part. So the another part is my post request. So what does post stand for? So you'd have known about post offices and posting some letters. So posting means sending it to someone. Okay. And post in my API means that I am adding certain data to the backend. Okay. So let's suppose if I take an example of student DB. Okay. Let me write a definition first. Okay. Adding a new resource to the backend. That is my post request in this case, adding a new resource to my backend. Let's suppose I have a student database or a student DB that is connected to my backend. And if I add a new data to this DB, okay, so new data would be my name, then section I'm studying in, and marks that I have achieved. Okay, so if I'm pushing this new data to my backend, that's when I will call it as post request. Okay, that is I am adding a new resource to my backend. Okay, so this is database that I have assumed, and I'm adding new resource to my database. Then I will call it as a post request. Okay, that's what my post request is. You can call it as adding new resource, adding new data, whatever possible you can think of. Okay, I can also call it as adding new data. Okay, that is also a post request that I can consider over here in this case scenario. Okay, so get was retrieving data, post was adding data. Okay, two things. Remember, after get and post, I have another thing that is put and patch. So put and patch have a very slight difference between them. So put is updation of already existing data. Okay. So updation of already existing data. Now, what do I mean by already existing data? So suppose let's take an example. You have a hostel booking or else hotel booking. Okay, you have a hotel booking. Now, in hotel booking, you can update information about a particular room if it already exists. Okay. You cannot actually particularly update data of a hotel room that is not already there in your database. Remember that. If you are adding a new room, it comes under post request. It does not comes under put. So input, you have to actually update a data of already existing data. Okay, so let's suppose in hotel booking, if I'm talking about a hotel booking, what all fields can I think of? The first thing that I can think of is room number. Okay, and second thing that I can think of is status. Let's suppose these are the two things that I have. So there would be particular data, there would be particular room number that would already be existing in your database. You would be updating either status or any other thing of that particular field. Okay. So remember, put works only for already existing data. Now, how will you make a request for put? So when you make a request for put, you will be sending a particular room number in this case, or else I can think of a universal ID. Okay. So you make a request to identify the resource that you want to update. Okay. That you want to update. Remember that. So first of all, the first step in the request making is you have to identify what resource actually you want to update. Without identifying what resource you want to update, you cannot do that task. Okay. So let's suppose in our case, I want to update room number 101. Okay. I have a task where I want to update room number 101. The status right now is taken. That is, it has been booked. But I want to update it to vacated status. So the first task that I will do is I will, along with my request, suppose I am making a request, let's make a request. And so in my request, I will be adding a particular number to identify which resource I want to update. So in this case, I will also be sending my room number in request. Okay, so request will have my room number along with the request, whatever thing I am sending, I will have room number embedded into that. Why? Because we need to identify which data particularly I want to update. Okay. So once you send a room number, what happens in the backend? Again, things are not that complicated. You just need to check if that room number exists or not. Okay. So I will check if room number is already there or not. So if room underscore number dot exist, I will check if room number exists or not. If room number exists, then I will perform updation. Okay, then I'm going to perform updation. Else, again, I'm going to return 404 response if the room number is not already there. Okay, so this is a kind of scenario how things work in there. So in request, what all things are you going to send? So you are going to send a request with room number along with updated data. Okay. So what are things? Let's suppose I take this example again. I want to update this room number 101 and I have to change the status from taken to vacated. So the request, how will I form? So in request, I will be sending a body. In body, I will have two things. First is room number. So room number will be 101 and the status will be vacated. Okay. So two things are being sent. One is the particular room number that you want to update. Another one is the updated value. Okay. So that is how your put request works. Now let's go with the patch request. A slight difference from put request. So request is somewhat different. So patch is also used to update a particular given data. Okay. So it is also used to update a given data. Now, over here also we will be adding that condition that data should already be there. Data should already be there in the database. Okay, so let's take another example, more complex example to understand patch, and let's understand the difference between patch and put. So now I'm taking a student DB. So in student DB, I will have some items as first item as ID. Let's suppose my ID is one. Name is sample. Okay. And after this, I will be adding section. Section, let's go with A. And another thing would be group. Okay. Let's understand. Let's give it a group of, let's take group 4. So this is one of the sample data that I have. Okay. So in this data, what all things do we have? I have ID, I have name of the student, I have section, I have group. Now let's first of all discuss what will happen in patch. Okay, what is going to happen in patch? So patch will also work in updation of a given data, but remember, patch is not going to update all of these given data. Patch will only take selective data and update it up. Okay. So let's suppose I want to update only one thing. What one thing I want to update? I just want to update the group of the student. Okay. So I will update group of the student. Okay, not whole data, but just a group of the student. So for that case, I will be using patch. How will request be there? So again, I need to first of all understand or else identify which data I need to update. So I will be sending request. Along with the request, I will have ID. Along with ID, I will have updated data. Okay. So patch is popularly known as partial updation. Okay. We call patch as partial updater or else partial updation. Why do we call patch as partial updater? Because it only updates partial fields. Okay. What do I mean by fields if I talk about field? So in this case, I have four fields. One is ID, another one is name, group, and section. So if you want to update just one of the given field, in that case, you will be using patch. Okay. Just a partial updation, then you will be using patch. What if we are using put? So put is majorly known as complete updater or else a request that actually completely updates a given data. Okay. So we'll call it as complete updater. Now, this does not signifies that I cannot update partial data using put. I can, but as per the defined scenarios, put is actually used to completely update a given data. Patch is used to partially update a given data. That is, it will take up a particular field and it will update only that field. Okay. If I do the same request using put, I will be updating all of the given fields. Leaving out the ID, I will be updating name, section, and group. If I have that scenario where I need to update name, section, and group, in that case, I will be using put request. But in this scenario, if I need to update only one thing, that is partial updation, I will go forward with a patch request in this case scenario. Okay. So a slight difference between put and patch. And the last thing is delete. Okay. So for put, patch, and delete, the item should already be available, okay, inside your database. So as per the name suggests, it is used to remove a particular data, okay, used to remove a particular data from database. Now, how will we make a request? Okay, yeah, wait a minute, guys. I will send the attendance form after this topic is completed. Okay. So how will we form the request is I will send a request. Along with the request, I will be sending an ID. Again, remember, I have to identify if my item is already there or not. Okay. If my item is not there in the database, what exact deletion will I perform? So for deleting, I need to have my data already over there. Okay. So I will add a condition that data should be present in the database. Okay. So things will be same as I did earlier. Okay. So I will be performing the same task is first of all, I will check if the item exists in my database or not. If it exists, then I will perform the deletion. If it does not exist, then I will send a 404 response. Okay. So if the item is there, I will be sending a deletion. If the item is not there, I will not be sending the deletion. I will not be performing the deletion in this case. Okay. Remember that. Put, patch, and delete will work on only one given case. Item should be available. For that reason, it performs a search first of all. Okay. Before performing the task, you have to first of all perform a search operation to search if the item is there. If the item is there, everything goes on well and good. Okay. So this was the type of request that we make in our APIs. How are we exactly going to make this mistake sorry this request, and how like what all things will be there, we will be discussing that tomorrow when we actually get into practicality. So till then, just remember these all things. Okay, we are going to again get back to these concepts again to understand what all requests we are making and what is the structure of the code that we are writing in. Okay. So the next concept after this is HTTP request codes. I hope so. You do not have any doubts till this point. Yes, guys, I'm sharing the attendance now. Wait a minute. And yeah, if anyone has any doubts till this point, they have to ask me now because we are going to actually mark your attendance. I'm sharing it up early. It does not mean I will be sharing this attendance early tomorrow too. This is first day, so we'll keep things much of shorted. From tomorrow, attendance will be shared at last after 45, 7:45 or 7:50. Okay, so you can mark your attendance for now, and till everyone is marking your attendance, whoever has whatever doubt related to whatever concepts we covered, please write it in the chat. Let's complete that first, and then I will move to my HTTP status code topic. Okay, guys, add your doubts, whatever you have in the chat. Let's complete that first. Okay, I do not want you to be having any doubts before moving to the next concept. So yeah, feel free to ask whatever doubt you have. If you do not have any doubt, I will move to the next concept. Okay, by looking into the chat, how silent it is, I am assuming that you do not have any doubts. Okay, fine then. I will move to the next concept is of HTTP request and responses and the status codes that you have. So let's understand whatever meaning and everything that we have for those HTTP requests and responses. Okay. Yes, Muskan Bansal, that's the attendance link. Okay. So the next concept that we have is HTTP or else HTTPS. Much better will be HTTPS status code. So first of all, let's understand what description, like what some keywords mean. So if I'm getting a OK response, okay, I'm not discussing about the code right now. I'm discussing about the response OK. So if I get a OK response, what does it means? So it actually means that the request that you made has been executed successfully. Okay, that's the only meaning that we have. So I will write a successful request over here. So OK means the request that you have made is successful. The request structure that you followed is also successful. Okay. So that is the first response that you can get. After OK, I have another one that is created. So created is mostly used in post request where we are creating a new resource. Okay. And it actually means the new resource has been successfully created. Okay. That is what it actually means. Okay. So this request resource is created. Okay. So mostly used in post request, mostly given in post request. Okay, so remember that created will be used in post request. Where is attendance? Attendance is pinned on the top in the chat. You can get it over there. Okay. Okay. Then what is the next thing that we have? We are done with okay. We are done with created. Then we have bad request. Okay, we have bad request. Now remember, if we make particular request, that particular request will have a particular structure. Okay, so request does not means a request. Request means a particular rules and regulation in terms of structure that you follow. Okay, so if you want to understand it in more simple example, let's suppose I take a restaurant example back. Okay, so in the restaurant example, you can make request only to the waiter. The next thing is you have to make a request in a particular order. Okay, you cannot just jump in some of the orders. Similarly, when we make a request in our APIs, we have to follow particular structure. So if we have any problem in the structure, then we call it as a bad request. Okay, so we call it as an invalid input request or else problem with the structure. So we will call it as an invalid input. Okay, or bad structure of request. Okay. So whenever we get a bad request, these are the two possible cases. I will show you example tomorrow what exactly can lead to a bad request because we will be testing it up with Postman too. So another one is unauthorized. Now, all APIs are not accessible to everyone. Okay. So all APIs are not public. Some APIs can take requests from only some particular domains. So if you are making request out of a particular domain, it means you are not authorized to make any request to that API. Okay. So it's like not every lock can be opened with a single key. Okay. Or else not every lock is open for you. So not every API is public, and the private APIs can take request only from some authorized domains and API keys. So if you make a request from a wrong API key or else from a wrong domain, then you call it as a unauthorized, or else your authentication will fail. Okay. Authentication failed. So authentication will fail in only one given case scenario, where your API key would be wrong, or else where you would be making a request to a wrong API key. Okay. So in that case, you will get an unauthorized response. Next is not found. So now not found is a case scenario where resource does not exist. So you made a request for a particular resource, but that resource does not exist. In that case, we will be sending a response back that is not found. Okay. Resource not found. That will be the case. And after not found, there is one more thing, internal server error. So this is a very famous response that we get. Now, internal server error majorly signifies that you have some problem in your backend code, or else the connection between your backend and database is not established. Something there is some problem with your backend. Okay, internal server error is not a problem from front end part, is not a problem from API request. If there is internal server error, it means that there is some mistake that you have done while making your backend part. Okay, so we call it as something broke down in your backend. Okay, in your backend. So if you get a internal server error for a certain API, then you have to check up with the backend if the code written by you in the backend is correct, or else if there is a problem with database connection, or else if you have signified some fields in backend that does not exist. There would be any type of error. You can think of syntax, you can think of runtime, whatever error you can think of is possible cause of this internal server error. Okay. So these are the some responses that you get. Now let's quickly map them up with response codes that we can possibly get. Okay, so what are response code that we can think of in this case for now? So I can think of a response code of 404 for my not found case. So whenever I have a case of not finding a particular resource, I will be getting a response code of 404. Okay, so let's write it up over here. Okay, let's start with OK one. So if I am having my request OK, then I'm going to get a response code of 200. Okay, so 200 response code signifies that everything is OK, and yeah, so it should be for OK, not created. Yeah, so for OK it will be 200. That is 200. Now the next thing that I have is I have for my created. So for my created, what should be the response status? In that case, I should have 201. So whenever I have a response of 201, it signifies that a new resource has been created. Okay, 201 stands for new resource has been created. Then for bad request, I am going to get a 400. Okay, bad request will be having a status code of 400 or else 400. After bad request for unauthorized, I will be getting a request, sorry, response of 401. It signifies that I have a bad request. Not found will be 404, very famous status code. 404, not found, and internal server error will have a request status of 500. Okay, so that is my internal server error. So these are the most commonly received response codes that we get. So 200, 201, 400, 401, 404, and 500. Okay, I hope so you will remember this. We will need these all response codes when we work with the APIs while testing it up, because we are going to receive these responses. Okay, I hope so. Everything is clear till this point, guys. Is everything clear or not? What thing can happen if an unauthorized person gets access to API key while the free APIs available in stat ranges? See, first of all, if the creator of the API knows that there is a potential danger with the data that has been stored, he will not make a public API. He will make a private API accessible to only some of the authorized API keys. Second thing, if someone gets hold of that API, then you can consider it as a data theft. Okay, First of all, if you know that the data that you are having in your database or backend is kind of important and it should be kept in confidential, in that case, design a private API. Okay. See, Patch API, as I explained you earlier, it will be similar to put, but the only difference between put and patch is put will be used for complete updation, and patch will be used for only partial updation. Okay, that's the only difference that I have in put and patch. Okay, fine. Is it clear? Is there any doubts from your side, guys? Okay, so we have some last topic that I want to discuss is JSON. So JSON will be used for our API creation and responses. If API gets leaked, what are the threats? If API gets leaked, everything gets leaked, okay? The data that you have stored gets leaked and you cannot think of any major threat other than that, okay? So API holds, see, you can think of API as key to a particular law. And beyond that lock, you have a golden treasure. Okay. So you have a gate. On a gate, you have a lock. And behind those gates, you have a golden treasure. If someone gets the key, it means he will take all those golden treasures that you have beyond that door. Okay. So if a particular API gets leaked, in that you can think of a data theft, where all the data that you have will just get stealed. That's the only potential threat that you have. And this single potential threat is like biggest threat that you can think of. Okay, let's discuss about JSON. Okay, how can we create your own API? I will discuss that tomorrow. We'll create our own APIs. We'll try deploying it up. Okay. Okay, so what JSON stands for? So first thing, JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation. Okay, so JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation. Okay. Now, what does this JavaScript object notation is used for? So it is actually used for storage. Okay. So used for storing. First part is storing, and second part is exchanging. Exchanging data between client and server. So the client is front end. Screen clearly. Okay, would it be clear now? Yeah, so what is it used for? It is used for actually storing your data as well as it is used for actually exchanging the data from backend to frontend. Okay, that's the personal function that JSON perform. So if you want to discuss about the characteristics of the JSON, first thing that I can think of is easy to understand and read. So JSON is a format that is human readable. Okay. If you read a particular JSON data, you would be able to imply some meaning out of it. You will be able to understand what exactly this data is talking about. That is why we call it as an easy to understand and readable data storage format. So first thing is easy to understand and read. What is the second thing that I can think of? So it stores value in a key value pair. Okay. So key value pair. So whatever JSON data I will be having, every data will have a particular ID associated with it. We'll show you in one example. Okay. We call it as an object ID. Does ever server is connected to the database, the internet connection? Server, can you write it much more descriptively? I'm not able to understand what you were clearly trying to ask. Obviously, the server is connected to the database. Okay. First thing is that, what was the second thing that you were trying to ask? I am not getting that. Yeah. So JSON stores data in the form of key value pair. That is, there will be a object ID associated with whatever data you store. The third thing that I can think of is JSON responses are very common in API. Okay, common in APIs. Whatever response we make, everything comes as a JSON. Not everything, but majorly most of things come in JSON format. If you want to see one particular format of JSON that I can show you, let me bring one example of JSON format. Okay, so let's take this up. So this is one particular example that you can think of for a JSON. Yeah, so we have fields like name, skill, and experience. For along with this, I will also be having one more thing that I can call it as object underscore ID. And we will have some particular ID number that will be associated with data. Okay. So if you go down and try reading this data, you will be able to understand everything. Everything is written in plain text. Nothing is encrypted. Everything is human readable. That's why we call it as easy to understand and human readable form of data. Okay. What is the difference between JSON and API? JSON and API are not from same family. They are totally different. API sends a response in format of JSON. JSON is a form of storing a data and sending a response. Okay. API is application program interface. It is a gap between front end and back end. And JSON is a format in which we store a data. The attendance link isn't opening. It's opening. I think so. There will be some problem from your end because from my end, it's clear. It's getting opened. Okay, if I check it from my end, I can see it's opening. So yeah, there is no problem with the attendance form. Okay, so guys, whoever have not marked the attendance, please mark it up. Okay, okay, guys. So this was my JSON, and yeah, again, these all parts, whatever we discussed now, we will be working in practicality tomorrow. So just keep everything that in your mind, whatever we have discussed till this point. Okay. And now, if you have any doubts from any of the concepts that we discussed till now, you can ask it now because I will be closing the session now. Okay. We are close to 8 o'clock. So whatever doubt you have, just ask it now and I will resolve it up. Okay. Okay. Guys, is there no doubts from your end? Really? Okay, great. So if there is no doubt, then please mark your attendance if you haven't marked it till now. And you can leave. I will meet you tomorrow at the same time of 7 o'clock. Okay. Okay. So same timing and every day we'll have 1 hour of lecture. And from tomorrow we will begin with the practical part. Okay. So great. It was great having you for the first day. We have 2 more days remaining. Let's complete everything that's remaining for our sessions. And we'll meet you tomorrow, guys. Whatever notes I have written, it will be shared with you in the community post. Over there, you will be getting that. Okay. We're going to discuss what the status. Yeah, obviously we'll be discussing. Yeah, guys. So notes you will get from community post. Until then, let's take a leave and we'll meet you tomorrow, same timing for the same duration of time and we'll complete the practical part too. So thank you guys for joining in and bye bye. Good night. Have a great night ahead. We'll meet you tomorrow.